let's jump right into today's explainer. We're unpacking a really complex and rapidly shifting situation in South Asia that has international observers on high alert. We are looking objectively at the recent and, quite frankly, super surprising unrest unfolding in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Now, obviously, this is a region deeply steeped in decades of geopolitical tension. You know that. But the current wave of protests, it is a massive shift from the usual headlines. I want to establish the visceral reality on the ground right now. In footage flying around social media lately, you can hear groups of men shouting this exact phrase. We will kill, we will die, but we will bring a revolution. Wow, right? This is absolutely not your standard peaceful march with cardboard signs. It's a boiling point. When rhetoric gets this definitive, it's a huge red flag that underlying grievances have just completely hit critical mass. Which brings us to the core mystery we're figuring out today. Why are Kashmiris suddenly revolting against Pakistan? Look, for years, the dominant narrative around Kashmir has almost entirely focused on Kashmiri Muslims agitating against Indian rule. But here is the wild geopolitical twist. The people out in the streets right now, demanding control and clashing with security forces, they are in the part of Kashmir controlled by Pakistan. So what on earth sparked this total shift? Part 1. Mounting unrest in Kashmir. The sheer scale of this unrest is just staggering. To put it into perspective, we're talking about a region home to just over 4 million people. It's a massive population, and their explicit demands for electoral reforms were recently flat-out rejected by Pakistani authorities. When a population of that size feels like their civic voice is just systematically shut down, well, it creates a total pressure cooker environment. That rejection was absolutely the spark that lit the fuse here. And this didn't just happen overnight. We're looking at a very clear chronological escalation. First off, you had those demands for electoral reforms, which were rejected. Then, hitting late July, things escalated big time. Thousands of protesters organized a march, but security forces physically halted them in a town called Rawalakot. So what did the protesters do? They dug in. They literally transformed that halted march into an ongoing sit-in. The political demands shifted into a physical confrontation, and now it's a sustained occupation. Part 2. Crackdown and human toll. Right now, there is just massive tragedy and deep confusion on the ground. You can see it clearly in the completely different death toll estimates. On one hand, Amnesty International reports that around 40 civilians and 6 Pakistani security personnel have been killed. But protest leaders, they assert the civilian death toll is already north of 60. Meanwhile, a government spokesperson is out there claiming these reports are totally exaggerated. The big takeaway for us here? It's practically impossible to independently verify the exact numbers at this moment, and there is a very deliberate reason for that. Part 3. The information blockade. The severity of this government clampdown is absolute. Pakistani authorities have essentially pulled the plug on the internet, throwing the whole region into a digital blackout. At the same time, they've expelled foreign journalists to get independent eyes off the ground. Now, the government claims they're only restricting movement to protect civilians, but the reality on the ground is looking incredibly bleak. Disrupted supply chains are causing critical, severe shortages of food and medicine. We're not just looking at a political standoff anymore, it is a rapidly deteriorating humanitarian crisis. You know, it's so easy to get lost in all this high-level geopolitical data, but the human stakes are incredibly real. Think about this. One woman who recently managed to flee her village described a truly harrowing scene. We're talking families going hungry, totally empty pharmacies, and just utter desperation. Tellingly, she requested strict anonymity to share this. The pervasive fear is that authorities will actually punish her family back home just because she spoke out. That one single anecdote really hits the nail on the head regarding the sheer terror sweeping through these communities. Part 4. Competing narratives. The gap between these two perspectives really couldn't be wider. The official narrative, coming from the Pakistani military, pushes the idea that these protesters are actually agents of enemy India, blaming it all on foreign interference. The military insists the state is being, quote, very, very restrained. But in stark contrast, the protesters are completely rejecting the state's actions. Like one protest leader argued, elections carried out at gunpoint literally have zero legitimacy. So the state claims it's protecting the region while the protesters are calling the state an occupying force. To help make sense of this massive contradiction, Danish Khan, an associate professor at Franklin and Marshall College, who is actually from Kashmir, gives us some really vital context. He points out that Pakistan has spent decades presenting itself to the world as the rightful ruler and protector of Muslim-majority Kashmir. So deploying state violence against those exact same Kashmiri Muslims, it severely contradicts their entire geopolitical identity. To try and counter this terrible optic, Pakistani authorities are just pushing forward with elections, desperately trying to maintain some veneer of legitimacy. Part 5. The Fear of Contagion. Professor Khan notes something crucial here. This fierce clampdown isn't just about controlling Kashmir itself. It's actually about a much broader terror brewing within the state. As he brilliantly puts it, political movements have a way of traveling. The elites in Pakistan are hyper-alert to the deep, widespread economic and political grievances echoing all across the entire country right now. The real core fear driving this severe response is that a successful uprising in Kashmir could be the spark. If they concede to these demands, it could easily tap into those national frustrations and spread like wildfire far beyond the administered territory. And that leaves us with a massive, unresolved geopolitical cliffhanger. The state is doing absolutely everything in its power right now, from total internet blackouts to heavy military deployments, just to contain this. Yet despite the violence and the critical shortages of food and medicine, the residents of Kashmir have vowed to return to the streets. The massive question the global community has to ask now is, can this containment actually hold, or will the sparks of this Kashmiri reform movement travel and ignite widespread unrest across the entirety of Pakistan?